Toyota has made some necessary changes for their most affordable crossover in the lineup. Introducing the 2026 Toyota Corolla Cross XLE. This is the mid-cycle refresh that we have all been waiting for out of this vehicle, especially now in the 2020s where everything's getting a bit more digitalized, everything's getting a bit more fun and exciting. And for 2026, we have some new technology, a new design, and also for our model, a standard package that provides a lot of value here for a crossover coming in under $35,000. In today's video, we're going to check out what the Toyota Corolla Cross has to offer us here with the XLE trim. We're going to take a quick look at the exterior, the interior, take it out for a quick test drive, and see why, if you're looking at buying a practical and also versatile daily driver, then maybe taking a look at the Toyota Corolla Cross might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to AutoFair Toyota in Tewksbury, Massachusetts for letting you come down here to check out the Toyota Corolla Cross. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Toyota inventory. So as always, let's begin with that pricing. For the 2026 Toyota Corolla Cross XLE, you're looking at a starting cost of just under $30,000. If you go with front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive will tack on an additional $1,400 to that price tag, and if you go with a well-equipped model like we have here today, you could be spending close to 35 grand. So even though some of you might not be looking for a compact crossover, it does get into that compact crossover territory, especially with the RAV4, which might be a better choice here if you're looking for a more powerful engine or maybe even more practicality. But for a subcompact crossover, you can really option this out to your liking and get some creature comforts that you desire. As part of the mid-cycle refresh for the 2026 Toyota Corolla Cross, you have this new front fascia, which is more streamlined than last year. But I'm noticing some design elements, not only from the RAV4, but with this grille design and the lower portion of the front bumper, it kind of looks like a baby 4Runner. Just the way it's designed. I have no idea if Toyota's trying to go in the rugged direction for their most affordable crossover, but with the all-wheel drive system, they could most certainly do it. They could make this something that is more adventurous, for sure. Now, one thing I do want to point out, though, is this gloss black trim piece that sits above the grille. I personally think it's a bit tacky, but it does match the gloss black side mirror caps for the XLE. So Toyota is trying to go with a dual color setup here for their gas-powered model. For the lower portion of the front bumper, you have this very aggressive cladding here that also outlines your LED fog lights, and this cladding will make its way to the side profile for the wheel arches, letting you know that you could take this vehicle off-road or possibly in those deeper snow conditions, especially with the ground clearance and all-wheel drive system. But most noteworthy for 2026 is this new LED headlight housing and design. So you now have LED headlights, but LED daytime running lights and LED turn signal indicators. This is huge because this vehicle has always been seen as economical and affordable. But now, even for an XLE that comes in at around $30,000, it does look somewhat upscale, and I also think a bit more futuristic as well. Then as you make your way over to the side profile, you're going to have 18-inch alloy wheels, which I think look fantastic on this crossover. It gives you more of a RAV4-like design here, and I think matches the cladding as well for that side profile. Some people might be complaining about the road noise or ride quality, but remember, this is still a Corolla Cross, so it's not going to be the most refined driving experience out there. So if you want better interior insulation, the RAV4 might be a better choice. Best of all, though, with the XLE, you will have gloss black side mirror caps to go along with turn signal indicators, and best of all, you are going to have blind spot detection for added safety. Then as you make your way around to the back, you are going to have those LED taillights here, so nothing has changed from 2025, but it still looks sleek, it still looks modern here, even though this generation has been around for quite some time. You're going to have your Corolla Cross badge on the left side, and then your XLE all-wheel drive badge on the right. For the lower portion of the rear bumper, you're going to have cladding once again, so very prominent on this model, but I do love the color-matched rear diffuser. Really nice to see. And you will have a visible exhaust outlet tucked beneath the bumper for that cleaner appearance. And while we're taking a look at the rear fascia, let's check out the cargo area for the 2026 Toyota Corolla Cross. Since we had the $1,250 convenience package, this gives us a power liftgate, providing a lot of value to this model, especially in this segment, because some vehicles don't give you that. Inside, behind the second row seat, you're looking at right on 26.5 cubic feet of room. And this right here is why the Toyota Corolla Cross might be a great choice for you, because Unlike most of its rivals, this is not a lifted hatchback. This is not a lifted hatchback version of a Toyota Corolla. This is actually more like a baby RAV4. And at 26.5 cubic feet of room, this is better than the Subaru Crosstrek, Mazda CX-30, on par with the Honda HR-V. The only other vehicle out there that is better than this would be the Nissan Kicks. Now what you are going to notice here is that you will have a rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. You're also going to have deep side pockets on both sides of this cargo area for some smaller items, maybe a couple water bottles, car detailing equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. But probably more importantly for a lot of you is that beneath the floor mat, you are going to find a spare tire. So if you encounter a flat on those road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. Then finally, with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 66.5 cubic feet of room. Very compact crossover-like. So you don't have to spend over $30,000 or $35,000 for a vehicle that is practical, that's versatile, and I think very flexible in this class. Hopping inside the Toyota Corolla Cross XLE for 2026, there's actually a lot to discuss here. And for a mid-cycle refresh, it really centers around the interior. You have new technology, a full digital gauge cluster, larger infotainment system, new dashboard layout. You also get, for the Corolla Cross with the all-wheel drive system, the cold weather package, giving you heated front seats and a heated steering wheel. So during those winter months, you will be nice and warm. By opting for the XLE, you get Softex upholstery, and the driver's side does have power adjustability, whereas the passenger will have to manually find their ideal seating position. Remember, this is still a $30,000 crossover after all, so temper your expectations. This is not going to give you all the bells and whistles, even though this is the top trim for the gas-powered version. When it pertains to the comfort for these seats, I do think they're supportive. The bolstering is pretty good here for a crossover that isn't sports tuned. However, I do think these seats are a bit firm. So on those longer road trips, you might be dealing with some fatigue here. But on those weekday commutes, when you're just traveling maybe an hour here and there, I think these seats most certainly do the job, and the Softex upholstery does give you some sense of quality and comfort here. In front of you will be that heated steering wheel, no aggressive 10 and 2 or firm 9 and 3 grips, also no paddle shifters either to rotate the gears yourself, which I'm not surprised by. However, what is great to see is this new full digital gauge cluster for this model. Now, it's not new for Toyota. We have seen this in the Camry, we've seen this in the RAV4 and the Highlander, but never for this model. And this is huge for a vehicle that is in a competitive and overly saturated market. Some rivals even today, such as the Subaru Crosstrek, are not going to give you a full digital gauge cluster out of their gas-powered model. So this is great to see. On the left side of the steering wheel will be buttons to help you control that digital gauge cluster. Now, this is not going to be super in-depth or intuitive, but it does display the essential information that you are looking for, such as your tire pressure monitoring system, your adaptive cruise control settings, and then, of course, your fuel economy statistics as well. Very straightforward. Now, as you make your way over to the infotainment system by going with the XLE, you now have a 10.5-inch touchscreen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. Software-wise, it's the exact same as last year, so nothing new to write home about. However, it is still very easy to use. So on the left side of the screen will be quick access icons for your navigation system, which you still have to subscribe to, although if you plug in your phone, that won't be too much of an issue. You'll also have your radio, your smartphone connectivity, and then vehicle and general settings. Very much the exact same as a 2025 model. However, the big difference that I noticed here with the 10.5-inch touchscreen is that the rear backup camera is much bigger, and the resolution is also clear as well. So when you are backing into tight spots or parking on city streets, you'll have that safety, you'll have that visibility that you're looking for out of this vehicle. This is actually one of the things I'm really impressed by with the XLE and with this new infotainment system. Beneath the head unit, you're going to find some physical buttons here for your volume, but also you can power on that radio. However, even better to see this in the XLE and for a vehicle in the mid-2020s, that you're still going to have physical buttons and dials for your dual zone climate control. That is right, dual zone here with the XLE. Your AC, front and rear defrosters, fan speed, and fan direction. I know a lot of you are looking for a tactile experience, and thankfully Toyota didn't change this up for 2026. Beneath that, for your new center console, you will find a wireless phone charging pad here to go along with buttons for your 2-level heated seats, your heated steering wheel, and your auto start stop. Next to your gear shifter will be a USB-C input, and then your auto vehicle hold and electronic parking brake. There is some gloss black trim here, but it isn't egregious, so I'm glad to see that Toyota trimmed down a bit on that. So I think that this setup should be pretty good for a lot of you right now. You can have 2 cup holders here. Then for the standard storage compartment, there is enough room for some smaller items, maybe a couple wallets or smartphones, and you will find another USB-C outlet and 12-volt outlet. And then to round out the front seating area, and we've already talked about this before, above will be a power moonroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now for passengers in the second row, unfortunately, interior dimensions do carry over from 2025. You're looking at just over 32 inches of legroom, which is far from being class leading. This would be on par with a Mazda CX-30 and a Subaru Crosstrek. The big difference though between this model and those 2 rivals is that we do have a higher roofline, so tall passengers should not be hitting their head on the headliner. I will say though that 32 inches of legroom is a bit deceptive because I think there's more to this model than what you see on paper, because this seat is adjusted most of the way back. It's not necessarily on a recline, but I do have a few inches of legroom remaining. So you can definitely have your kids back here and tall passengers back here on a daily basis. So it is still family friendly. However, I don't think you'll be squeezing in a third person in the center. It might work, but there's going to be a lot of contention for that shoulder room. So keep that in mind. You might want to go with the RAV4 for the 2025 model. Now, when it comes to the amenities back here, as expected, you're not going to receive everything. You're not going to have heated outboard seats. However, one thing I do like to see is that we are going to have 2 center-mounted air vents to go along with 2 USB-C inputs. And then to round out the second row seating area, you do receive a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Then getting to the good part here with the performance, you are going to receive a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine producing 169 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with a CVT. Like I mentioned earlier, you can go with front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive will come at a cost of $1,450, so keep that in mind. And then when it pertains to fuel economy, you're looking at right around 29 miles per gallon in the city and 31 miles per gallon on the highway, which is actually pretty respectable in this class considering this is not the hybrid version. But with all that being said, I would recommend going with the hybrid model. You got a better bang for your buck, better fuel economy, better performance. Sure, you might be spending a little extra for the hybrid, but I most certainly think it's worth it. Mostly because with the hybrid powertrain, you get more refinement. You also get a smoother driving experience, because what we have here with our Toyota Corolla Cross, the CVT does drone a bit, it's a bit loud, you have that rubber band effect. It's not the most enjoyable crossover in the Toyota product line. That's why I've been saying throughout this entire video, you might want to go with the RAV4. But for those of you who are staying true to the Corolla nameplate, what you are going to like, though, out of the Corolla Cross is the fact that it does not feel like a lifted hatchback, that it is a true crossover. It really is. And you notice that with the seat positioning. You do sit pretty high up in this model, relatively speaking. You have a nice commanding feel and presence over the roadways. Also, plenty of visibility here. The A-pillars really aren't that aggressive, so I don't think of any blind spots when you are approaching intersections or red lights. I think the side mirrors are massive, maybe unnecessarily massive for a crossover in this class, but I can see what's in my blind spots and the lane next to me. And then looking out back, we do have more of a hatchback design for that rear fascia, so there might be some blind spots, or it might not be as clear to look out in the back behind you, but still a good amount of visibility here, relatively speaking. Now, also when it comes to the ride quality, I do think the suspension does a pretty good job here. You're not feeling a lot of the bumps and imperfections, and on a day like today, with it being so windy, interior insulation isn't that bad either, even with the 18-inch alloy wheels. So what you have here for a model at around $30,000 might be more than adequate, might be sufficient in this class. I just think that performance-wise, that's where the Corolla Cross is falling a bit behind, and why you might want to go with that hybrid model. Because keep in mind, Honda does not currently offer a hybrid version of the HR-V in the US. So if you like what you have here for a vehicle of this size, I would steer you towards that hybrid model. Returning to the straight line speed here for the Toyota Corolla Cross, when you can get it moving, it does feel somewhat spry, but under heavier accelerations, it's slow and lethargic. It is not the quickest crossover out there. In fact, it exhibits a lot of the same qualities that will be found out of other naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engines in this class and vehicles that do use a CVT. So let's get on the highway here. Let's see what this Corolla Cross can offer us with the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. Now in the corners, there is some disconnect here between you and the vehicle. You feel the body roll. This does not have a sports tune suspension, which again is why I say go with the hybrid. The hybrid will give you a sportier experience. But let's see if we can pass some slower drivers here. Let's see if we can safely merge onto the highway as well. When it needs to, it can put the power down, but in some ways it's gasping for air. At highway speeds, interior insulation is what you would expect out of a $30,000 crossover. This is not going to be like a Highlander or a Grand Highlander, so there will be some road noise at higher speeds. On the highway, it has a nice composure on the roadways. It stays in its lane, not a lot of swaying. And I do like the steering input here for the Corolla Cross, set up for city driving, so it's not going to be performance-oriented or athletic in that way. But for when you need to take sharp corners, going left or right, it can most certainly do that. Ultimately, though, this is going to be a point A to point B vehicle. For someone who always owned a Corolla sedan or Corolla hatchback, but needs something just a bit bigger. And I think for its price point, maybe not necessarily for the XLE we have today, because this is around $34,000, but for an L or LE, I think it's a great value. It's a great way to get into the Toyota lineup. You're getting a brand new vehicle. You're also getting a crossover that's practical, and I think provides a lot of interior space, relatively speaking. Yes, as I talked about before with the second row seating area, it is a bit tight, but it's not as bad as some rivals out there that are basically lifted hatchbacks. So it has everything going for it. It has the intangibles. It's just that in the Toyota product line, you have the hybrid, which I think is just a better deal. I think it's the better value, and it's what I would recommend here, comparing this to the gas-powered version. If it is something you really want, though, it will come at a cost, but I think for that extra cost, it goes a long way. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review for the 2026 Toyota Corolla Cross XLE. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.